All right, Martin and Bill, ready? I'm going to kick it off.
Okay.
Yep.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. This is Raj Varoja with Uphold, and welcome to a conversation with Uphold. These webinars are hosted by the Tech Leaderboard and J&K. The Tech Leaderboard is the platform where companies in the crypto, blockchain, technology, alternative energy, cloud, hyperscale, and cybersecurity connect with institutional investors and retail customers. On today's call, we have Bill Siebel, Head of Ecosystem Development at Sinfin, and Executive Director of the XDC Foundation. The XDC network is a global, open source, delegated proof of stake consensus network. Today's call will be moderated by Dr. Martin Hiesbach, who's the Head of Blockchain Research at Uphold. Before we start, please note that any questions are to be posted in the Q&A in Zoom. And without further ado, Martin, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. 欢迎大家来参加我们今天 Uphold 新fin的 webinar. I am teasing you because most of you probably don't know that the Xin in Xinfin means trust or new or heart and a lot of other things. It's a Chinese word, at least a transliteration of a Chinese word. Welcome, Bill, to this webinar.
Thank you very much, Martin.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm very sorry that we had to postpone this for a month because of COVID and travel restrictions and God knows what. But we have finally arrived. Bill, there's a lot of people out there interested in Xinfin, not least of them the World Economic Forum and several big banks that we've been talking to. We're talking about trade finance. Can you give us an overview of what Xinfin, of what the XDC network is and what it does?
Yeah, sure. So as it was mentioned, the XDC network is a delegated proof of stake. The public network, which is, we refer to as the XDC network, as a fork of GoETH. And we also have a private side, which is a fork of Quorum. We've done a lot of work to both of those as far as, connecting them through a relay bridge and, the delegated proof of stake for scalability, energy efficiency and low cost. And so we really built this as an enterprise-ready blockchain network that would be able to handle the needs of large institutions, banks, financials, fintechs that want to build on chain and need to really operate privately on certain levels, and then use the benefit of blockchain for the immutability, by having some of that data transferred over to the public side. And so we've really focused largely in the area of trade finance when we had originally launched. And the network itself, was launched by Xinfin back in June of 2019. That's when we went live with mainnet. And the foundation has been created to really help support the community and the development of the network, as we move forward. So we've done a tremendous amount of work here in really building out the ecosystem, which kind of has led us to this call here. As an example, is you just kind of start in one place and you just kind of keep building from there. And so our focus really, with trade finance has really been about, how do we close the trade finance gap? And, everything that we do in our lives are really touched by trade finance, the shirts we wear. Yeah.
Billy, can you elaborate a bit? What do we mean by trade finance? There's a lot of people on there coming from crypto Twitter and from the general buzz about cryptocurrencies, but what is trade finance and why is this important to the world?
Yeah, so really, it's a good question. It's really very simple when it really comes down to it, and I think that's one of the ways in which we like to look at it. When we're looking at the movement of product across the globe, there are a lot of intricacies into making that happen. How money is moved specifically is really the area in which we've been focusing on. And if I'm a buyer in the US and I want to have import of product from another country, in order for me to really do that, I have to get with the bank here. That bank needs to communicate with the bank overseas. We need to then, work out transaction details, and it can be a long and cumbersome process. And so for, the focus that we've been doing, working with trade tech, we've really spent a lot of time looking at how we can simplify that process really through digitization. So we could take documents and, we can digitize them, and then we can, effectuate the trade, really make it happen with, originators, non-bank originators and bank originators to finance t-shirt manufacturer or TV manufacturer across the globe, so that, it is very simple. They have invoices that they have. And so the first instruments we've really started with is invoice financing. So we've created trades or transactions where we've taken invoices from a group of different manufacturers, and we've financed them on chain and turned it into an NFT. And so I think that's, so it was really, we believe, the first of its kind, to do an NFT in trade like this. And, now we're just really, putting all of those rails, final pieces in place as we really kind of work into having a, fully regulated, system.
If I can probe you a little bit on the paradigm shift that we are witnessing here. The problem of everything in human endeavor, including the economy and trade, is the problem of trust. We have solved this problem when we trade goods across continents and countries by involving a middleman, the bank. I trust my bank, Mr. Chen in Singapore trusts his bank, and the two banks trust each other. And this is how a letter of credit goes. In the era of blockchain that we're entering now and of XDC solving this problem, how does that paradigm shift? Who trusts whom? How can Mr. Chen be sure that I'm paying him for the goods, and how can I be sure that I will receive the goods?
Right. Well, I think that's actually the beauty of blockchain, is that you have the ability to create smart contracts that have very specific and defined rules that are going to be happening within a specific trade. So the key really, I think, is that it's not like I'm picking up the phone or my bank is picking up the phone and calling a banker across the globe they've never spoken to. We have an ecosystem that we've been building of participants, and those participants become the financiers. We onboard the SMEs, and so we have a pipeline really that's been created, in order to be able to, create this type of funding. And, it's also funding ultimately that is an opportunity where, retail investors will, at some time down the road, have an opportunity to participate like anybody else. They can see information that is, pertinent to, the details of the transaction. So you can, because of blockchain, we have the ability to digitize any of the information and load it onto the blockchain. It's all part of the smart contract. And like I said, as with the smart contract itself, once you create, the tokenization and, all of the parameters are there, it executes through code, not through a particular person across the globe. Mm-hmm. So that really, that's, I guess we use the word trustless in blockchain, and sometimes we actually talk about it. Maybe it's really more like being trustful, like you're really more like trustful in the system, as opposed to trustless, really referring to you don't have to trust any particular party. In this case, you're trusting, you really put your trust in the code and the network and how it executes, and those are things that can be inspected and checked, and so you can have confidence that what you're doing is going to execute the way it should.
Yeah. So if I'm just thinking ahead, then this is a major disruptor in the way traditional trading works, in the way Amazon, for example, works, right? Because it involves delivery, door-to-door delivery from the factory through the transportation network all the way to your house. This is a major disruptor in global trade. and especially important in times like these when we see supply chains severely disrupted. For example, right now by the COVID lockdown in Shanghai, right? Car
Yeah.
manufacturers can't get parts. There is a supply shortage with chips, semiconductor chips. If we move all that to the blockchain, we're entering an entire new era. Why do you describe the Xinfin chain as a hybrid chain?
Well, hybrid being that we have both public and private state, as opposed to just singularly being private or being public. So you're, like I said, you're able to operate as a business on chain. And, you know, a lot of businesses, banks, originators, there's a lot of information that is needs to be private in terms of competition, things that you need to do as far as your business goes. You can't, just operate out in the open with, like private details that are going on within your network around perhaps, who your vendors may be, or, the details of that need to be really private. But, what we're able to do with the chain is have the details of the transaction be public because of the private and public nature of the network.
So let's say Amazon has their own private chain, and the manufacturer in China has their own private chain, and the shipping company, let's say Maersk, has their own chain. There's a problem of interoperability. How are you solving this? How do these blockchains talk to each other?
Well, they're subnets. So, I mean, it's really how they operate, on the subnet. But, the smart contract platform, they're able to, anybody can enter, or, with how this will work is, I mean, it's like blockchain is being really what we're doing is we're bringing blockchain to, a real world utility, right? So you have these off-chain transactions that are happening, and they're cumbersome, they're costly, they include a lot of paperwork, there's room for a lot of error because there's a lot of manual process. And so what we're doing is creating an interface that, somebody can go to, like what looks like a SaaS or, a portal on the internet, and they're able to essentially create or enter in all of the parameters that they need to, in the contract or smart contract platform itself. And, the result is the execution of the contract by both parties. And so it doesn't look any different than you might, see operating, on the internet, but it's connected to a blockchain, and it has the execution of the smart contract, the creation of the token. And, then you actually have an owner of the token, who holds the note. And so it's fast and it's efficient, and, it executes on its, like I said, through code. So, I think, Martin, to a little bit to your point, like some of the challenges that we have right now in global trade, obviously have to do with just the ability for people to make the product. They may even have what they need from materials in some cases, but they don't have the people, or maybe there's a lockdown going on somewhere like you're seeing in China. And so, they're not producing at the factory, or there aren't people able to load the boats and, at the dock. And so I think there's a lot of disruption at kind of every point of contact across the globe in all of this. And the one benefit that we do have with blockchain, and what a lot of people are doing in the space, is to really address a number of those areas that speed up the processes that happen sometimes, like in between, like the financing, and maybe there's other shipping, and there certainly are, I know, of other shipping or projects that are focused on, how to create, better shipping across the globe on the logistics side. And so I think it's a matter of, where do you put your focus, and how do you make sure that what you're doing in that area of focus is going to be something that is going to be efficient and going to make a difference. I think there is a lot of disruption going on, and in the space.
Buzzword of the day, NFTs. How do NFTs come into that?
Well, I mean, NFTs really give you the opportunity to show specific ownership of a particular asset. And I think that, in particularly when you're dealing with something of a very, what could actually be, a high value commodity, and there's a lot of movement, the ability to actually have not just ownership of it, but a trail of ownership. So if, you sell the NFT or, maybe portions of value of something that you own, it can be reflected in that. So it's really, again, it being on chain, it's immutable. So you can't undo it. You can't change it. And so it just creates higher level of, I think, security and, confidence that what you see is what you get.
We at Uphold are in a phase where we are trying to focus on quality and meaningful blockchain projects that will define the future of humanity, make our lives easier, make our world more connected. And so the buzzword ISO 222 is there. Shinfin is ISO 222 compliant, right? What does that mean? Can you explain it to our audience?
Well, it's funny. I mean, I think that there's a lot of international standards that are put into a lot of different industries. So, I mean, I spent many, many years in manufacturing, and we had ISO 9000. I mean, it's essentially a system, right? I mean, it's a system of how you're going about doing something, and you document what that system is, and you follow that system. And, with ISO 20022, you're really looking at it from the, perspective of like, how do you have financial institutions communicating? Really, I look at it with the same language, same messaging. It's consistent. It meets the standards and requirements, and so therefore, you're able to really have a vibrant system that really, can be worldwide. And I think that's, it's important. There's a number of different, I think, initiatives that you see going on across the globe that are trying to create a more global, standard for what's happening. And it's a very, very difficult thing to do.
What's the standard for hospitality? Is it ISO 9002 or 9006? I forgot.
I'm not sure. Well, 9002 would be they change them every so many years too. So from ISO.
So let's just say 9000 is okay. I spent a lot of time living in Asia, and there was near my house was a love hotel where people could rent rooms for by the hour.
Oh yeah.
And it had a huge sign outside saying we are ISO 9000 certified.
Right. Yeah. So they run
There's a standard for everything, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, so they have a quality standard for how they rent their rooms by the hour.
Exactly.
These things are important, right?
These things are important, but the quality of your stay there, right?
Right, exactly.
You're fast. You're basically fast. There are a lot of things in trade that have to happen fast, and some of the networks that we have now and that are overhyped and that are dominant in the crypto space are really not suitable for that. You have a fast and a very cheap solution for that, right?
Yeah.
And that won't change with use. If like everything starts moving on Shinfin, are you going to get congested and more expensive, or is it scalable in a proper way?
Yeah, I mean, we're working on scalability. We don't see any issues with the speed and what we're doing currently at this point. But there are a number of things that we're doing, looking at, like sharding as an example. This has been something that's really internally been on our roadmap for some time, and so we've tested and really worked at looking at how we can increase that. And I think that one of the things being too is that with the ability to really have the private side, if you're operating on the private side, and largely if transactions are happening there, then in a way it acts as kind of like a side chain, I guess you could say. So it's you're not you're executing the transaction on one side, you're relaying information to another, so you're not putting as much of a heavy load on the public chain you know, constantly. But you know, look, I would say we have some really great minds who are working on this in the blockchain space, and they could probably speak to it far better than I
Yeah.
can from the technical
I assume that the scalability depends also on on the number of nodes. Can you elaborate on the node concept with Shinfin?
Yeah, well, right now, you know, we have 200 nodes that are currently running on chain. We have a maximum that we had set at the time for 300 total nodes. 108 of those are validators. And so, you know, the rest are standby nodes. So we have 108 master nodes which validate, and then the balance of those are backup nodes that can come in. And you know, we've looked at that structure, and you know, we have, you know, the ability with our community to go back and take a look at whether we want to add more nodes if that's something that we need. You know, that's something that we can do. And I think that, you know, as it is right now, and if you've ever actually really used the network for sending you know, coins from one wallet to another, you know, it's you know, the feedback. I mean, I see it myself, but you know, it's amazing how nearly instantaneous it is. And so, you know,
Can I run a node?
can you run a node?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, actually,
What do I need to run a node?
well, if you're going to run an actual standby node at this point, because master nodes are, you know, that whole allotment is full, it does require 10 million XDC. But there are nodes that can be run on the network to support the network that are not do not require the locking of you know, XDC. XDC master nodes return 10% annually, you know, for the locking and the staking and the locking of those. And the standby nodes have 8%.
You need 10 million XTC to run a node. I passed it on to my board. See, we've got money.
Yeah.
Tell us about the token itself, the XTC token. That is obviously what people are going to buy. Before
Yeah.
I make an announcement, our chat room is exploding. I don't know if you can see this, but
I can see. Yeah.
there's
Lots of people.
instead of just listening, you know, people just yapping on about and asking
Yeah.
questions we're going to answer anyway.
Yeah.
Tell us
Well, we
about
have a
the
great
token.
community, and there's a lot of people that just, you know, yeah. I mean, we're very community driven. So
Absolutely. My Twitter feed exploded ever since we did this, you know.
yeah. It's great. So
So tell us
yeah.
about the token. The token, it's the XDC token. What are the use cases, the utilities of the token? You
Yeah.
said it's used to make nodes. And what else? How does it work?
Well, I mean, we're an EVM compatible smart contracts platform chain. So, I mean, you can basically launch any type of utility that you want on the network. You know, for the most part, you know, in our early days, you know, we had really focused very heavily on the area of trade finance and enterprise in that case. And, you know, it takes a lot of time and effort to work with partners to really develop and build, you know, what we've built in that area. You know, with when I came on a little over a year ago, back in, you know, February of 2021, in official capacity with Zinfin, you know, we had discussed, you know, my role really, as I should say, as head of ecosystem development, was to really look at what we can do to create an ecosystem that allows our trade partners and anyone else that wants to build to be able to come on and build on chain. And so since that time, you know, we've had the launch of you know, decentralized storage. You know, we have Oracle on the network. We have a number of NFT marketplaces which are in the process of launching. You know, so there's a lot, and there's a lot of use cases people have come to us around solar power.
You can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's you know, DeFi. You know, we are looking at supporting a number of, you know, DeFi initiatives as we move forward as well. And so I think that, you know, we're, as a foundation, really looking at, you know, what are really the ways in which people can really use blockchain to actually make a difference in either enterprise and real world use cases, or in areas that can actually make a difference for others. And environmental sustainability is another component of that. We are focused on sustainability as a chain. We're looking at ways in which we can help with tracking and tracing, and also the possibility of, for me, I've looked at it saying, well, if we're really a trade finance focused platform for enterprise, what can we do to really help businesses in the green space really, finance their needs in the space. And so we've had a lot of different conversations with people who are really doing this off chain and looking at ways in which we could help bring financing, to them. And I'd say, like, this is one of the biggest things that I think we're able to really create with what it is that we're doing on the trade side, that then allows us to move into other areas. Is when you have banks that you're onboarding and financing, non-bank originators as well, or even other qualified retail investors who can come on and kind of participate in the ecosystem in regulated territories or jurisdictions. What you really have is you have the ability to really make things happen for not just business, but for individuals that want to come on and really participate in an ecosystem, maybe even by learning how to develop on blockchain, or this is it really, I think the one thing that's great about blockchain is that it really it's the democratization of business in a lot of cases, the opportunity for people anywhere to really take part in it, and for all boats to rise. And I think that's really largely our focus around what we're trying to do. So we have projects reaching out to us all the time, and we're always ready to listen to see what people want to build. And there's some really exciting stuff that's being built on chain now.
Billy, I'm gonna ask some questions now, because if not, the list is gonna be too long to manage. Before we make the announcement, and then I hope everybody in the chat can STFU for a while we do this. Are subnet selective nodes?
I'm sorry.
Are subnets selective nodes?
Yeah, I'm not clarification. What do they mean by selective nodes?
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Let's keep that. I don't know either.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a very interesting question, because I know the answer for that. The ISO 222 migration for banks is supposed to start in November, right?
Yeah.
November 22, with a 5-year migration period. So in terms of time frame for the growth of Shinfin, are we looking at the same 5 years? When do you think banks will get around to adopting these standards for blockchains and token?
Yeah, well, I think if you know anything about or have experienced anything around, how, registration or, these types of certifications, tend to work. I think it's always a fairly slow roll for people to really get to where they need to get to. I can't really speak for just in general, what businesses themselves are doing around, the standard. But I would assume it will take some time for people to really incorporate these into their systems. And I think when you look at when you look at the banking sector, really kind of outside of it, I know a lot of people in crypto kind of are attuned to this because they've been looking at the transfer of money and value on chain. But I think if you actually saw what was going on in a lot of the banking sector, you would see that it's like any other traditional business that has challenges in its own infrastructure from a software perspective, and especially banks that have tens of thousands plus employees, to be able to transition into a new technology something that's been around for a long time is a very, very, very difficult thing to do, and it takes a long time. And so,
especially the current environment where we have like the old guard of management in these companies who don't understand blockchain, who read in the newspaper what a scandalous risk-taking cryptocurrencies are.
right.
I think we should the first thing we have to do is get rid of the word cryptocurrencies. You know, a utility token is not a currency per se. We have an entirely wrong nomenclature for what we are trying to achieve, right? That is one of the problems.
I was actually
Do you have,
thinking about that the other day. It is one of those things. I mean, really, blockchain is a technology play. It really plain and simple. I mean, there's different consensus mechanisms and there's different focuses for different chains. But at the end of the day, it's really all about the technology. And, the token itself or the coin is really more, in most cases, I think where chains will be successful, it's a tool that's used on the chain to make things simpler, easier, better. So, it really, plain and simple, that's what it is. So hopefully people will see it at some point and realize, I mean, it feels like they're starting to realize that in some places, if you've seen what's going on in Panama or read about what's happening there.
yes, we got the news.
Yeah. So, which
Very
is
excellent.
for us because we're one of those coins.
And explicitly named, right, in the Senate.
Yep.
Do you see any other big milestones in the next 6 to 12 months for you that you can comment on without giving away your trade secrets?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think, a lot of the community are really very, very focused on trade finance and a lot of the stuff that we've been doing with trade tech. You've seen recently, the WTO and the World Economic Forum, has written about us in trade tech and what's going on there. And, I would say that we're very, very close to, I think some real, really being in a position where some pretty exciting stuff is happening around regulatory areas in the EU that are going to allow us to really advance what we're doing on the trade side. And
I'm involved in some of these. The MiCA regulation stuff. Yeah, the whole MiCA regulation stuff. It's a tedious process, but it involves so many stakeholders that it must be, right? It's a very long and complicated discussion.
Yeah, I mean, you really need to look for us. We're looking at doing we do is a lot of people say there's going to be this great reset. Cryptocurrency is going to be the at the forefront of on and we need to do something about it. different projects. And so here our part of focus are in Europe, and we're just supporting them on the tech side for what we're doing. And so it's kind of like a one jurisdiction at a time right now. I know there's Amletter and all these things are happening, but
there are efforts to finally remodel the Securities Act in the States, right? Because when we do listings of stuff, it's like 10 minutes to fill in all the questions that are needed, and then 5 hours to find out, is there any chance that this could be considered a security, right? So the Howley prongs that takes up so much time, so ridiculous, right?
In Europe, there's no clear answer.
All right, I have another question that's very interesting. How does the total trade finance amount, the global trade finance amount, translate, if it were run through your network, translate to the value of XDC? So, I mean, how is trade volume linked to the appreciation of the token price? I know it's very vague, but
right.
I think what he's asking is when moon.
Yeah, I know that's definitely a when moon question, isn't it? Well, I mean, I think if you know anything about me, you would know that I typically don't answer questions like that. And largely because I'm not a predictor of things to come, nor hard enough to figure that stuff out. Because there's no predict. I would just say that the idea behind really what we're really trying to do is build the ecosystem, like I said, so that we can support the trades that need to happen. If that reaches 100 million, 100 billion, or $1 trillion in total value of transactions that we're doing on the network in any given amount of time, it's just a matter more of the system has to be in place in order to support it. What that means for price or anything like that, that's anybody's guess. And there's no one for one in my mind. Oh, if it's this, then it's that, or if we get 1% of all trade, then it'll be worth this. It just doesn't. There's no way. The market does what the market does, and we don't control it, so we don't really comment on it. And we just want people to be smart and safe about what they do, and really kind of do their own research and feel confident with what.
And I hear you. I'm the head of research. I'm constantly being asked for predictions, but I try not to make predictions, especially not about the future, right? They hardly ever come true. I apologize to everyone in my Q&A list if I can't get to your questions. But I have some announcement to make, and if our listeners could spare me a moment. Uphold has a spectacular product. It's very unique in this space. Our wallet effectively allows you to swap anything for anything. What we have now is just the beginning. This will be expanded on. This will be one of the most powerful wallets in the industry. Uphold believes in the power of blockchain, and we believe that everyone should have control over their own finances. We also believe in communities. The events around XRPs have built the strongest community in our Uphold circles that you can imagine. We also believe in solid, vetted, ISO 222 compliant endeavors that will give you freedom and that will make the world as a whole a better place and a more efficient and a more just place. And we believe in educating our users. We want to deliver values to individuals and institutions by offering education. We want you to understand what you are buying, trading, or hodling. This unique leaderboard series that we have now is just the start. It is brought to you by the New York brokerage J&K, which is a part of Uphold. And we try to offer valuable insights. And with that, I thank you very much, Bill, for being part of this endeavor to educate people. I can assure you, on behalf of the entire Uphold team, that we will continue to support the technology of the future. In various, one of them being Uphold. We will embrace the entire XDC blockchain, token, associated tokens, and we will continue to deepen the relationship with Shinfin in payments, institutional solutions, and trade solutions in every aspect and in the long term. Maybe one day we'll even have a credit card where you earn cashbacks in XDC or XRP or whatever. I am not making predictions. I'm not going to give you a timeline. I have learned not to trust my developers. I trust them with the code, but I don't trust them with dates and timelines, okay? They don't keep calendars and clocks in their windowless basements. On the radar, now listen up. On the radar, I have GBX, I have WTK, I have SRX, DC, PLI, BLKZ, XSPD, MetaBlocks, a number of FTC projects, NFT projects. I have all of those on the radar. Some of them already talking to, we're evaluating them. Some of them you will find on Uphold sooner than you think, but probably later than you want. Others may not make it through our rigorous vetting process. We really look very closely at the tokens we list. I have been front run by my developers who have listed XDC 2 hours before this call started. So I apologize for that. We were supposed to start trading right now, right? These things happen, you know, Uphold is a big company. And integrating an entirely new blockchain is a very difficult task. It takes time. You know, we need engineering talent. We need people to work on this dedicated 24/7. We have strict testing procedures and standards and code compliance procedures. We don't want any misuse, any errant price movements, any failure points when we finally integrate the XDC blockchain. I don't want to go here on a webinar and say from now on we have the full integration and you can move your tokens out of the wallet and you can send tokens and then it doesn't work, right? We want to test this. But rest assured that our engineers are hard at work to secure the future of finance, trade, and your personal finance. And XDCs is one of the 4 pillars that we are building our communities and our future vision of Uphold on. Thank you very much. Raj, do you have anything to add? I don't think Bill needs an elevator pitch.
I think we've covered that one. So
I think we've covered everything.
Bill, Martin, thank you so much. Like you said, the questions just keep coming in, but we'll keep an eye out and hopefully we can get back to everyone in due time or post on Twitter. So with that being said, I think we can wrap up today's call and thank you for everyone for joining a conversation with Uphold. Next week, we have a special call with Polkadot, so be on the lookout for that invite. And Bill, thank you for your time. This has been awesome. Martin, as always. Until then.
Thank you, Raj.
Yeah, thanks,
Thank
Raj.
you, Bill.
Thanks, Martin.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Pleasure. All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.